Well, the problem is that many of us, including our ministry, just never shifted very well out of a crisis mode. A crisis response to hunger is, you gotta feed them, they're starving. But hunger in our country, unlike Haiti and the earthquake, hunger for us is not a crisis issue. It's a chronic issue. It's a symptom of chronic need. It's ongoing. It's food insecurity. It isn't starvation. I've been working at this in the inner city for 40 years. I've never seen somebody starving. Plenty of food. Even if you're homeless, you know where to find it. You know where to dig around. You may miss meals. Nutrition may not be the best, but we don't starve. That's not a crisis issue for us. That's a chronic issue. When you address a chronic issue with a crisis intervention, you do harm to people. Bad results come from that. And an awful lot of what we have been doing as a caring society has been addressing chronic needs with crisis intervention, and it harms people. That's one of the reasons why our poor are staying poor and, frankly, getting poor. That's why with all of our programs, and by golly, we got a bunch, we give away more clothing, more food, more dollars, more time than any nation in the face of the earth. 90% of our population are involved in service or charity of one type or another. They're funding it or they're doing it. Even kids in grade school, learning how to serve. We're a serving society. But the majority of what we have been doing in terms of serving the poor has been on a crisis intervention mode. And when you use a crisis intervention on a chronic problem, so then the question is, how do we shift? How do we change that paradigm so that we can have the kind of results that we feel good about? One of the reasons why we have continued to do one-way giving that does not move low-income folks out of poverty, one of the reasons is because we've been evaluating the wrong thing. We've been evaluating activity as opposed to outcomes. How many folks we have fed, how much food we have collected, how many clothes we have given away, how many volunteers we have involved, and we've been evaluating on how it feels to us. How was the mission trip? Oh, we bonded. It was life-changing. Incidentally, the research on the life-changing experiences that result in mission trips, on an average, lasts about 8 weeks. It's how it affects us, and we hire folks to mobilize our membership, to go on trips and do service projects, that sort of thing, and we count those numbers. So we're evaluating them, but we're evaluating the wrong things. What we're not evaluating is what are outcomes at the receiving end. Is dignity being enhanced? Are people assuming more responsibility for their lives? Is self-sufficiency improved? Is their quality of life growing and becoming higher? We're evaluating the wrong things. And so we have gone on and on addressing chronic needs crises. So what do we do about it? Well, let me tell you some of the stuff that we've been trying to do about it. First of all, we got out of the giveaway business. We said we're only going to address crisis needs. And the incidences of crisis needs went just skyrocketed. say, well, maybe we'll just get out of the crisis. Now, we know when a family's in crisis because their house is burnt down. You know, that's Red Cross kind of stuff. We know that. Most of the rest of the needs that we see are chronic. And they require a developmental response. It's that old adage, feed a man a fish, eat for a day. Teach him to fish, eats for a lifetime. We know this. We just haven't been doing it very well. And one of the major reasons is because it's harder. It's more complicated to do development work. It takes more time, it takes more involvement, it takes more money. And it's easier to fund. You tell the story of a person in crisis, and it just elicits everybody's heart. So it's easier to fund crises. And so we're tempted to stay in a crisis mode. New Orleans, Katrina, about 7 years ago now. Of course, the whole nation saw that every night on TV. And we said, my gosh, we've got to do something. So we did. We rushed in there. It wasn't very pretty, but we rushed in there with truckloads of whatever was needed. The heart of the nation poured into New Orleans. Now, 7 years later, we still have thousands and thousands of short-term missionary folks going into New Orleans with clothes and food for the Katrina victims. That thing should have shifted 5 years ago to a whole development response. We're still going in there treating folks as victims. Well, how do we change it? First of all, we got to realize that everybody has something of value to contribute. Folks have capacity, potential. May not be evident on first glance, but everybody's got potential. Everybody can put forth effort to improve their lives. We adopted a rule. We said, we will never do for someone else they have the capacity to do for themselves. Sounds a little harsh, you know. And so we started changing our paradigm. The clothes closet, that was a problem. Us controlling things. We shared that dilemma with a group, men's group of Methodist Church that had collected clothes for us. Said, we got a dilemma here. This isn't producing good relationships. It's appealing to a kind of a holy spirit. And they said, well, there's a simple answer to that. You know, those that aren't there always have simple answers. I said, no, that's called the market. Put a fair rate of exchange on desired commodity. That's all that out. So I said, would you guys help us set that up? And they had a meeting or two and said, yeah, we'll take that on as our men's missions project this year. And they did. Those guys set about doing what they do in their sleep anyhow. Business plan, traffic flow patterns, real estate research, shopping and competition. Got to bring it in right underneath, right below